Sophia Bennett was 36 years old when her husband slapped her in front of hundreds of guests at his mother's luxury charity gala. The sound echoed through the ballroom so loudly that even the music stopped for a moment. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the crowd while people froze with champagne glasses in their hands. Then, slowly, nervous laughter spread across the room. Sophia stood there with blood on her lip, staring at the people who had watched it happen without saying a single word. But inside her mind, only one thought repeated again and again. None of you know who raised me. The story did not begin that night. It started 4 years earlier when Sophia married into the wealthy Caldwell family. Before that marriage, her life had been simple. She grew up in a tiny apartment in Cleveland with her mother, Marina Cole, a woman who worked harder than anyone Sophia had ever known. Marina immigrated to America at a young age with almost nothing except determination. She worked long shifts during the day and studied law at night until she finally became a respected legal advisor. Sophia remembered falling asleep as a child while watching her mother read thick law books at the kitchen table with coffee beside her and exhaustion in her eyes. Marina always told her daughter one sentence that stayed in her heart forever. Never cry without a plan. Tears should teach you something. Sophia did not fully understand those words until years later. Sophia studied healthcare administration on scholarship and built her career without anyone's help. She was intelligent, calm, and hardworking. When she met Ethan Caldwell at a hospital fundraiser, she thought life was finally rewarding her after years of struggle. Ethan was charming and confident. He remembered little details about her, listened carefully, and made her feel seen. After only 8 months, he proposed with a beautiful ring in the middle of a winter evening downtown. The first warning sign came disguised as humor. Ethan laughed softly and said, "My mother has to approve the ring first." Sophia laughed too, but Ethan did not. His mother, Victoria Caldwell, controlled every part of the wedding within days. She changed the venue, controlled the guest list, rejected Sophia's ideas, and mocked her background in small subtle ways that sounded polite enough to avoid criticism. Sophia wanted her mother's homemade stuffed cabbage rolls served during the reception because they reminded her of childhood and family. Victoria refused immediately, saying, "Our guests may not understand that kind of food." Sophia stayed quiet because she believed marriage required patience. She thought kindness could eventually soften cold people. She was wrong. After the wedding, things became worse little by little. Victoria constantly reminded Sophia that she did not belong in their wealthy world. At Thanksgiving dinner, Sophia brought one of her mother's traditional dishes to the table. Victoria looked at it, smiled coldly, and said in front of everyone, "She still does not understand how our family works." Everyone stayed silent. Ethan lowered his eyes to his plate. Nobody defended her. That night, Sophia sat in her car holding back tears while the cold November air fogged the windows. Then she remembered her mother's words. Tears should teach you something. When she reached home, she created a hidden folder on her laptop called Insurance. She began saving screenshots, comments, financial records, and every cruel message she could find. Deep down, she already knew one day she might need proof. As the years passed, Ethan changed. Whenever Victoria called, he became a different person. Weak. Obedient. Controlled. Sophia often saw him mocking her with his family inside private group chats. Her clothes, her upbringing, even her mother became jokes between them. Each screenshot quietly entered the insurance folder. Then came the Mother's Day Gala. Victoria hosted the famous charity event every year. Hundreds of wealthy guests attended. Politicians, doctors, business owners, and reporters filled the ballroom. Victoria loved attention. The gala was her kingdom. This year, Sophia was treated more like unpaid staff than family. She greeted guests at the entrance while Ethan sat proudly beside his mother at the front table. Later that night, Victoria walked onto the stage holding a champagne glass. Her speech started warmly, praising mothers and family values. Then suddenly her tone changed. She began insulting women who marry into families they do not understand. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then Victoria looked directly at Sophia across the ballroom and mocked her mother for being a working immigrant woman. Sophia felt the entire room watching her. Slowly, she stood up and walked toward the stage. Every footstep echoed through the silent ballroom. She stopped below Victoria and spoke calmly. "My mother worked 3 jobs so I could have a better life. She taught me dignity, strength, and respect. She never needed wealth to prove her value." For a second, silence filled the room. Then Victoria pretended to cry dramatically and accused Sophia of ruining the event. Ethan, drunk and angry, stormed toward his wife. Sophia barely had time to look at him before his hand struck her face so hard the microphone captured the sound through every speaker in the ballroom. The room froze. Blood touched Sophia's lip. Her cheek burned. But she did not scream. She did not cry. She simply pulled a white handkerchief from her pocket, wiped the blood carefully, and walked away while people stared in shock. Outside in the parking lot, she made one phone call. "Mom, please come." 40 minutes later, Marina arrived wearing simple clothes and flat shoes, looking calmer than everyone else in that entire city. She saw her daughter's injured face and immediately began taking photographs for evidence. Then she said something Sophia would never forget. "Abuse is not love. And silence is not peace." Together, they walked back into the ballroom. This time, the room became silent for a different reason. Marina stood in front of Victoria and spoke with terrifying calmness. "Your son assaulted my daughter in front of hundreds of witnesses. Tonight is no longer a family issue. It is now a legal issue." People began whispering immediately. Ethan panicked. Victoria lost control. And when Sophia calmly mentioned financial fraud connected to the charity foundation, Victoria completely broke down in front of everyone. Police arrived minutes later. In front of the same guests who had watched Sophia get humiliated, Ethan Caldwell was handcuffed and escorted out of the ballroom. Victoria stood frozen near the stage she once controlled like a queen. Sophia watched quietly and whispered to herself, "Thank God I was never one of them." The divorce happened quickly after that night. Sophia kept her career, her dignity, and her independence. She did not take money from Ethan's family because peace was worth more than wealth. Investigations later exposed financial corruption inside Victoria's charity organization, forcing her to step down publicly. Months later, Sophia moved into a smaller apartment near her mother's home. It was peaceful. No insults. No fear. No controlling voices. Every Sunday, she visited Marina for dinner, where they shared homemade meals and quiet conversations in a kitchen filled with warmth instead of judgment. One evening, Marina asked softly, "How do you feel now?" Sophia smiled with tears in her eyes and answered, "Free." Sometimes people mistake patience for weakness. Sometimes they think silence means surrender. But dignity is knowing when to walk away from people who continue hurting you. Real love does not humiliate, control, or destroy. Real family protects your heart instead of breaking it. And maybe the most important lesson of all is this: when someone repeatedly shows you who they are, how long should you ignore it before choosing yourself? Moral lesson: respect, kindness, and patience are beautiful qualities, but they should never force someone to tolerate humiliation or abuse. A strong person is not the one who suffers forever in silence. A strong person is the one who finally stands up, protects their peace, and walks away with dignity before losing themselves completely.